You hosted SNL once, and I have too. I remember being told the best advice was like, it's moving. They know what they're doing. Just give yourself over to it and don't. And the moment I did, I was sort of like, what are we doing? And they're like, just read the card. I went, fine. And it just, when you give yourself over to it, it works okay.
I improvise. That doesn't work.
Yeah.
I drank too much Sebastian, and that didn't work either.
Hello and welcome to the LA Times Envelope Actors Roundtable. I'm Kelvin Washington, and now it is time to meet our guests and hear about the films that brought them here today. Adrien Brody plays visionary architect and Hungarian Holocaust survivor Laszlo Toth in the epic historical drama, The Brutalist.
Is there a better description of a cube than that of its construction?
Kieran Culkin is a dysfunctional but enduring Benji Kaplan who embarks on a voyage to investigate his family's roots in Jesse Eisenberg's A Real Pain.
I got to pee.
Colman Domingo is John Divine G. Whitfield, an incarcerated playwright in Sing Sing.
Acting is just a process.
Peter Sarsgaard is ABC Sports Chief Rune Arlich on the ground as the 1972 Munich Olympics hostage crisis unfolds in September 5.
We put the camera in the right place, and we follow the story as it unfolds in real time.
Sebastian Stan is Donald Trump in the historical drama The Apprentice.
I got flair and I'm smart, so I think that's going to make me successful.
Stan also portrays an actor trying to change his appearance in the darkly comedic satire A Different Man.
That's basically it.
And Jeremy Strong is the infamous lawyer Roy Cohn, who takes Donald Trump under his wing in The Apprentice.
Roy Cohn calling on behalf of my client, Donald J. Trump.
Well, excited to be here. We have a roundtable of some esteemed actors who are doing some great work, and we'll get to all that work here in just a bit. I wanted to start with something that to me is interesting as someone who is not an actor, but what's that first role, first opportunity, first thing you got that you were excited about? The first thing you said, I can't believe I finally got this. Maybe you felt like this was your moment that you've arrived.
Making it, yeah, arrived. It takes a long time to arrive. I think we'd all probably say, I don't know if we've ever arrived, but and I don't know what I don't know if you want to arrive. You want to,
right.
You know, it is a journey. But I booked a movie when I was 14. Which was one of the first things I went out for. And my dad took me to the audition, and he told me when I go into the audition, go in there like you already have it. You're just showing them how you're gonna do it. Don't go in there asking for the job. So that kind of gave me the bug to want to do this
I think
forever.
I was kind of told in my first audition kind of almost the opposite, which was like, this isn't yours. So, which I actually think is good advice. It was like, you're going into something it's not yours, so you don't have to feel so like, but it was sort of like, yeah, remember, you just go do it, go have fun, and then when you leave, it doesn't happen. But then, you know, if it does. And I think my first audition was something you said was your first audition was something you
was
booked?
really one of my first.
It was one of your first.
The first thing I went out for, I worked with Coppola as a day player, and I went around. It was an open call in the back of like one of these kind of backstage magazines. It was an open call, and it was literally a line around the corner, which my dad took me to as well. And I waited and got in, and Coppola was in there meeting all these young kids going in, and I booked that. But that was a day. But yeah, that was one of the first.
I think.
And then there was like 17 years of not getting the work.
Started out hot. But as you said, it's a journey, it's a process. Anybody else jump on in?
There's a thing called arrival fallacy, which is like, you know, the horizon is just always receding. You don't arrive. I mean, I've never felt like I've arrived. It's just a search, and like you're sort of just on the frontier of uncertainty and, you know, doubt and taking risks, and
momentary
that frontier
moments of
just keeps moving.
And then the bottom falls out, and you keep looking.
I don't think I've ever looked at the next job and went, all right, it's coming, here we go. I think it's always just terror of, oh man, I may have just shot myself in the foot. I think it's always like, okay, I got the job, oh no. Am I going to ruin it? That's more what it is, the fear of, like, I'm wrong for it, or it's going to be bad.
Because you just all reaffirm, like, we all have the same.
Yes.
This is just a painful journey in every single person.
And here I am.
It's kind of wonderful in the same time, but it just, amazing how it
I
works.
thought it was gonna be just a simple, hey, I booked this ice cream
it's not like
commercial when
that.
I was 12.
It's not
It's
like
like,
that.
but I get the philosophy of what you're saying. It's always ongoing, and you're trying to, I don't want to say best yourself, but just keep finding that thing, and you jump on it at the same thing.
I think you're sitting here with journeymen, people who are like, this is what we do for a living, and I feel like it doesn't, like my friend here was saying, it doesn't feel like the idea of arriving somewhere. It's like, no, I just want to do well on this opportunity here. I don't know what arriving means. It means something for other people looking outside.
Right.
But for you, you're just like, I just want to work and do good work. I feel like I can point to moments where I felt like, oh, maybe the first time, like when I got cast to be in a circus. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, that was great. I get to actually like do weird things and travel around California and teach kids and stuff like that. And for me, that felt like, oh, I made it because I'm making like just a couple dollars, but I'm weird and traveling with the circus troupe. That was actually, it's my beginnings, you know what I mean?
We might have to circle back to that.
I did that for a good year. A good year. It was called Make a Circus. But
Let's not circle back. What did you do with the circus? Let's do this now.
Okay, you can't just drop that.
Basically, I did 5 feet tall stilt walking. I juggled. I played an evil salamander monster. It was a political children's circus because it was San Francisco, and
That's
it was
way too
called
much
Make a
back. You're
Circus.
right.
It's a lot. So we were like subtly teaching kids about like how to take care of other people and do the right thing.
As a salamander or something?
As an evil salamander. I was like sort of like, I was spreading disinformation. This was years ago.
Wow.
But it's very popular now. So
Yeah,
I was spreading
I see it.
disinformation and conspiracy and controversy. And then eventually I was found
Jeremy
out.
just did that right now. It's beautifully.
Totally, exactly.
An evil salamander.
Right.
No, but I was thinking it's like, there's a line from that in a way to Sing Sing, to the using different, the way that the plays they put on have all pull from all kinds of, idioms and
Absolutely. I'm pulling, I think that hopefully I'm pulling from things that I started with, a long time ago. I still want to feel, dangerous. I want to feel like you said, I feel like I'm going to f it up. Every opportunity, I feel like it's an opportunity to possibly fail, honestly. I'm going to take some swings and see what happens and try to get closer to this thing that we're trying to connect each other to,
I do.
One of the best, advices I ever got, was from Israel Hicks, who was the head of at Rutgers, where I went to school, and he always said, you got to just bring the day with you to the audition. Whatever's happening up to walking in that door, just maybe you spilled some coffee on you, or you got a bad phone call, or whatever. Like, you just bring in the truth of that day, and I still think about that a lot of times, even now, like going to set sometimes, there's something that is inherently happening that is a truth that I feel can just, there's a miracle to that if you pay attention rather than driving always some idea,
But for me, like every day that I had an audition that I cared about was a day of high anxiety. And so I only did well in the auditions where it was extremely high stakes, because I would walk in, I'd be like,
I had to channel it.
I had the only thing I could do. I couldn't deny what I was feeling. That I would have looked like a psychopath. I had to let it out, and so the jobs. I remember doing auditions sometimes where I would be bizarrely emotional in a scene that was not emotional. I fucking wanted it. Sorry.
I remember I had a manager once who told me after something, he said, you seem desperate. That's why you're not getting it. You seem desperate. And I said, I am desperate. Yeah. This is like this. We're fighting for our lives, trying to do this thing. And,
it feels like that
and
sometimes.
You really want to work. It does feel miraculous when you get the chances to work. And when you're outside of those chances, it's difficult. But the journeyman thing, it's meaningful. Like this is really meaningful because we've worked together twice. We just worked together. We're the only, so we have to work together. And I've admired you forever. But it's like, this is nice.
Yeah.
Having all been on this journey together over the years.
I want to go to you, Kieran, working with Jesse Eisenberg, who's also the screenwriter, the director in this. Which version would you say was easier to work with? The actor version of Jesse, or was it maybe the director version, or was it a challenge?
Well, no, he was great at all of those things. I mean, like going into it, he wrote a beautiful script that he also couldn't tweak because it was the writer's strike, which was great because he wrote a perfect script. And I knew him to be a great actor. I didn't know what he was going to be like as a director, but that was the first time I worked with an actor that also directed. Have you guys done that yet?
No, I haven't.
Tough. That is like day one, him like doing a scene with your partner, and then they go cut, and then go, here's how you can do it better. Yeah. And I'm just like,
You're not used to that.
no, because I'm sitting here going like, oh, you're gonna judge me because I got notes for you too. Like, you know, like I know how you can do it better too. And then like, you know, the defenses go up and all that.
That's
but
very
he was
interesting.
fantastic, and it was only his second film, and he really seemed like he was very experienced.
Yo, dude, I think we should move.
What?
I think you should move to another train car.
What do you mean?
You don't feel weird being in a first-class car?
No, we paid
No?
for it. It's not hurting anybody. No.
Dude, we are Jews on a train in Poland. Think about it.
In a real pain, Benji is, I think we can all relate to that character. We have that family member, that friend that you love, and it's almost one of those, I love him because he's crazy, but also drives me crazy because he's crazy.
Yes.
So he has a little bit of that. What part of you maybe could resonate with you, that character? Maybe you have that same thing, or where did you have to go to get
He's the
to
person that drives people crazy?
Yeah, no, I didn't want to, I wasn't trying to say that.
We've only known each other 10 minutes. You already you get it, right? All right. This guy worked with me for 6 years. It's like, was it nice to take a good year or so break for me?
Notice he's quiet over there. It's like no comment.
No comment. I think within 5 minutes of seeing you, I called your hat an ashtray for.
No, go ahead.
What? About this. I don't even remember what your question was. So I'm just gonna.
Were you Benji, or did you have to tap into something?
Yes, no, did, apparently. I got sort of two answers to that. So when I read it, I found the guy to be really surprising and really just like, anytime, I felt like I understood him right away and understood this dynamic right away. But then like 20 pages in, he would say something completely surprising, and I went, oh, this guy, almost in spite of you, if you asked him a question, he's gonna give you something you're not gonna expect. And I loved it, so I just went, I'm not gonna prepare at all. I didn't read it again for a year, and then right before we did, I read it once. I would not want to know what the scene we were doing was until I was walking to set that day, which would give him a lot of anxiety. I'd be like, what are we shooting today? And he's like, you're kidding, like, you have a whole speech.
No,
That's true. That's part of his genius. He can do that.
So it lent itself, I had to find that doing our show because of all the last minute changes and all the shit that they would give us, and sometimes the location's different. They're like, hey, you're in this scene now. I'm like, oh, I am? Okay, give me the... And I thought I'd have to let all that go. And then when I read this character, I went, oh, I can sort of do that again. But you can't do that with everything. I think with this character, I quite literally didn't know what was going to come out or what temperature was going to come out at, because the guy wouldn't know.
Sitting here, I was thinking about a conversation we had when you were thinking about doing Jesse's movie.
Yes.
And we were in the Waystar office, and you were kind of like on the precipice of it.
Yeah.
But like, it felt like a big risk and something you hadn't done, and and it's like, what I love about what we all get to do is that thing, is like, attempt to do something you don't know that you can do. There's so much source material when you play historical person. Roy was on television a lot, so it's a matter of absorbing all of the material that's available to you, studying the subject, endlessly, in a really kind of obsessive way, until it kind of takes over and takes possession of you, and you tip over into it.
Playing real people, and you all done it at some point. In this case, playing Donald Trump. Maybe you just talked about it there. Is there fear? Is it going to a role that people know this person? He's been the president, going to be the president again. What were the challenges, or what was your mindset going into playing that?
Well, I mean, I think, this is such a collaboration, right? Like, we have to have, it's the director, it's the packages, who are your partners? It's this whole thing about trust and being able to go there with somebody. And I guess I was lucky, a few years ago with I, Tonya. That movie, I, Tonya, really changed a lot of how I was looking. And I realized I'm a better actor opposite someone that's going to push me and challenge me, one, and with a director that really I can understand the vision. And so this had that. You forget all the noise aside. And then, I was like, really? Like, why are they calling me? But something about that kind of was I felt if I was not going to do it, it was because I was going to be scared, and I was going to just live with that forever, and regardless what happened. And so, yeah, I was motivated by that. But then I think, you know, Adrien talked about earlier, there's something about when you get older and you want to feel like you're part of a meaningful work, you're part of something that could stand the test of time. You're adding to a conversation. You're reflecting these times that we're in, no matter how uncomfortable they are, and maybe not thinking about the result, because if you are thinking about the result, then then I would have never made it anything. I would never have done it. You know,
I should have talked to Dad before announcing the Commodore.
He'll be convinced when he reads about it in the Times, okay?
Well,
You create your own reality.
it's not that easy.
Truth is a malleable thing.
But
These are too tight, I think.
All right. Well,
You have kind of
sorry.
a big... You know that? You got to work on that.
Jeremy, I'll go to you. Roy Cohn, Donald Trump, what tied them together? What maybe the things you think those, at that point in their lives, similarities, differences, what joined them that they would have that relationship until Roy's passing?
I mean, the movie is sort of about this relationship, in a sense, a love story, this sort of dark chrysalis that created the Donald Trump that we know today. What joined them together, I think, were kind of dark affinities. They were both these outsiders from the boroughs with tremendous life force and ambition, with a shared, I think, lack of scruple or, ethical core, for whom winning was the only moral measure. And I think Roy met Donald at a moment in his life where he was able to show him the inner workings of power and how to operate the levers of power. There's a line in the film that he cut where Roy says to Donald that you, like me, you would walk over fresh corpses to get what you want. And I think that is the affinity. That's what they recognized in each other. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's been strange to kind of talk about this movie as a movie right now, this last week, because it's about a very living danger. And I look at what's happening in this country right now, and I think you can trace so much of it back to the influence of Roy Cohn.
Nothing prepares you for filming or being in a prison. You hope to never go through those gates. And everything, I took in all of it. The first thing that I noticed is that I could never figure out where I was. There's no due north in a prison.
Peter and Colman, same thing as far as playing real people. Colman, I'll stay there with you. You got John Devine, G. Whitfield, a man who was wrongfully incarcerated in Sing Sing, and you're playing this role. He's also executive producer of this film, so playing someone who's kind of maybe over your shoulder, like, hey, this is how it happened, or this is what it was like. What's that experience, trying to really, I guess, showcase what happened in his life, his journey, while he's still there and he's a part of this film?
You have to, I feel like, honor the spirit of the person, but also liberate yourself from a portrayal of them.
Right.
I feel like even when I met him, I downloaded information. I didn't ask him anything, because I think I'm not that person who wants to pry into someone's life or say, like, how was it for you on the inside, all that stuff. I think we just got to know each other like we would get to know anyone. Just like we found out we both love spinach and things like that. You know what I mean? The most banal, simple things. But also I started to take in his body language, and also just subtly. I wasn't like studying him. But I feel like I want to make sure that I honor the person that's sitting across from me and really go to the thing that sparked me about them. And there were two things that I started to center my performance on. Was two things about him. When I found out that he considered himself sort of a jailhouse lawyer, and how he was always in the law library, and he was advocating for others, for good food, for his own liberation eventually. But also, even when the idea that he founded this theater company there, Rehabilitation Through the Arts. And all these inmates were finding that thing that was so sorely needed in this dangerous place. Was a place to unpack, to be tender, to put yourself in someone else's shoes, to do all the things, play theater games. Grown men go into places that they may have never been allowed to experience or be, especially black and brown men in particular.
Now give him some love, give him some love. All right, all right, all right. That's it. All right, now, what's your emotional state? What's underneath that? mad as a mother.
It's okay, no, okay. Anger is the easiest thing to play. Am I right, Brent?
Too easy.
What's more complicated is to play hurt. So once I found that, I'm like, this is someone who was, I mean, he didn't say it clearly, but I said, I knew that I had to invite tenderness and a grace that he maintained while he was on the inside, and a lot of these other incarcerated men as well. They didn't tell me that in particular, but I gleaned that because I thought, like, you know, in this very dangerous place, people are coming together to do this work and hold each other accountable, to do this deep soul work and do that thing that we all love called theater. But it was also giving them such beautiful new steps in their life, whether it's to deal with past trauma or even how they got there or the missteps or you name it, but also to do the thing that, like my co-star Clarence would say, gaining tools that once they're out, they become greater citizens, for their community, for their families, for each other. So for me, I got all that out of him, and that's what I wanted to imbue this whole film with in every single way. I wanted to make sure that what I care about, and I care deeply about, is how black and brown men are perceived in this country, and how I can be that change, because I know that that's what he was doing on the inside. He's such a gorgeous spirit, and I wanted to give that, and not only for him, but I wanted to be more facilitate being an everyman, showing many, many men's stories.
It was amazing. Peter, I'll go to you. In September 5, where you play Rune Arledge, who is a sports producer with ABC Sports. Back in 1972, the Olympics in Munich. Where did your version of Rune come from? Where was the inspiration?
Well, in the case of somebody who is, one, no longer living, and two, like not many people, if I say Rune Arledge to this room right now, maybe a couple people couldn't picture him, don't know much about him. I took what was important for our story from his life and didn't really worry about the rest. I've played so many real-life people, as I'm sure we all have.
Our job is to tell the stories of these individuals whose lives are at stake 100 yards away. And our job is really straightforward. We put the camera in the right place, and we follow the story as it unfolds in real time. News can tell us what it all meant after it's over, and I'm sure they're gonna try. But this is our story, and we're keeping it.
The free associative thing that I do as an actor on any part doesn't change when I play someone who's real or something, but I do take things from them. I am interested in who they are.
It's an epic, and I feel, represents, on one level, the journey of hopes and dreams of immigrants coming to America, and the kind of harsh reality of the American dream, and how that is very different from what one might expect.
Adrien, in Brutalist, which is a big film, you play a Hungarian architect who flees the Nazi regime and comes here to the States to find a better life. And again, it's a very big film, but how were you able to find a way to personalize it and portray this character?
Well, my mother is a Hungarian immigrant. My mom is an artist, a New York photographer. Her name's Sylvia Plahi. And she's also someone that has kind of guided me in my understanding of art and appreciation of art, and my own personal respect for artists and the craft and the yearning to leave behind something that is meaningful and brings more light than darkness to this world. And I feel like her intuition as an artist and her sensitivity to others and her empathy is somehow part of her being innately, but also informed from her trauma of fleeing war-torn Budapest in Hungary in 1956, when her and her parents fled on the back of a truck under a bed of corn as they were shooting flares and trying to basically shoot down people fleeing the Soviet occupation.
Because they do not want us here.
Of course Attila wants us here.
Not Attila.
Then who do you mean?
There are people here. They do not want us here. Audrey, Attila's Catholic wife, does not want us here.
His journey of fleeing Nazi-occupied Europe and surviving concentration camps, and then the trauma of kind of how post-war trauma has kind of emerged in the work that he makes, is something I can see in how past suffering informs insight and informs a kind of creative fervor and need to leave something indelible behind. And there's wonderful metaphors in the film, architecture and the structure that he creates has echoes of the concentration camps he's endured, but this kind of something to do with brutalism, of this kind of like rough, concrete, walled structure with this kind of hollowness within that also kind of mirrors his being, and then yet these kind of expansive spaces and hope and even, you know, a correlation to the spiritual, of this kind of image of this cross that comes through the opening at a certain time of day, and just kind of so beautifully depicted in the storytelling, and something so relatable. And I think anybody with any artistic yearning can relate to that, but it is very personal. And I feel really honored to speak to that, to speak to how hard it is for not just my ancestors, but like how many people's, you know, we live in a nation of people that have emigrated here and endured great hardships and are also fleeing great hardships to come to a place of this hope of a kind
the
of
movie
American
feels
dream.
monumental, and I think that's what that experience requires. You know, I've heard people, I adore the movie, and I hear people, I'll say, oh, you got to see this movie, oh, it's long. I go, it deserves to be long.
Yeah, I agree.
It's a monument.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very much, it's a very brutal, it is a kind of brutalist movie, if you will. It is.
Well, that's why you're required.
Yes,
yeah.
But it's a true feat. I'm very much in awe of Brady Corbet, our director, and how hard that is, you know, for a filmmaker to make a film of that scale and scope, and with an intermission and
I had assumed it was impossible. I
have until seeing it, even until people responded, it just was so enormous.
I saw it in a room with a bunch of critics, like a really nice screening room, and you're in good shape. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I was just telling you the same thing.
Appreciate that. That's cute. Thank you.
Kieran, in A Real Pain, it's your character, Benji, and his cousin. They're on a quest, if you will, to retrace the roots of their family back to Poland. Did it inspire you at all to maybe do the same for yourself, to take a look back at the family's history, or the family tree?
I wish I can give you an interesting answer. No, I'm not at all curious about my past, but also with this guy, it's true. With this guy, so Jesse, when he wrote it, it's actually about his great aunt, and the house that the characters visit is actually his great aunt's house that he had, you know. And sort of conveniently, for my character, I don't think he's actually all that interested in exploring this past. He's trying, the whole point for him for this trip is trying to connect with his cousin, and it's sort of like, a lot of the movie is, some people would say, like sort of a Holocaust road trip, something. It's none of those things. It's sort of like, it's nothing. I've heard so many people put it in some strange terms. It's like, it's a road trip movie about the Holocaust? No, it's not. It's none of that. He said that he had been writing about these characters that were like trying to connect in some way, and they all sort of have their sort of individual pain, which is sort of valid, but he said it at this backdrop of like what real pain is, this like trauma that their family had gone through.
We should just buy tickets like normal people. There's no time. Come on.
And there's an intersectionality with these films as stories with real things in our world. And you know, there's this sense we're all like dressed up, and there's this element of like self-aggrandizement. We're all here at a round table, but actually, I feel like the world is on fire, and there's a role for storytelling that is so essential. I mean, what you said a few minutes ago about what that film is about is like, it's so essential in our world right now. And I don't think there's another art form that has the connective power, arguably, or at least I feel this way about the connective power of film.
And the idea that in a system like Sing Sing, there's a level of acceptance of self that's happening on such a deeper, more profound level than it's actually happening in the real world. You know, because it's like, I feel like The Apprentice and The Different Man, for me, you know, for us is so much about identity and self-truth and the loss of self and the denial of reality, which is a very real thing that's happening now.
It's incredible.
I guess this means I'm not in the control group.
I can't disclose that information officially.
This could be something called the placebo effect.
I have to admit, I'm starting to feel a little frightened.
And so when you're thinking about like, well, why do I want to work on this? It's because there are things, yeah, that are very real for you that I think obviously influence how you're going to approach something. But then there's this thing which is bigger than you, and it's you know, and that's what I'm afraid of. I think going into this is. And I don't know if people really out there right now are interested in the truth or confronting themselves or wanting to accept themselves. You know, people are more interested in inventing their own version of things. You know,
I had a sort of really chilling experience a couple of weeks ago. We were having a screening in New York of the film, and this older man and his daughter came up afterwards, and she had made a documentary called Bully, Coward, Victim. Her name is Ivy Maripol, amazing documentary, and her father, Michael, is Ethel and Julius Rosenberg's son. Mm-hmm. And I felt sick. I felt something that I'll never forget as long as I live, which is the responsibility that we have as storytellers to do things with our whole self and with veracity and, you hope, integrity. And but it was this moment of, this stuff is not a game, you know, like it has a real effect in the world. This person who I play in this film caused incalculable harm. And recently, just to say, because I have a platform to say it that feels important, you know, Ethel Rosenberg was exonerated. You know, she was an innocent person that Roy Cohn sent to her death. The documents have been released. So, you know, yeah, just to say, it's like the responsibility is high. Yeah.
It really does feel like a thriller, even though many of us know the ending. These were men and women who absolutely had no time to think about what they were doing, the moral implications or otherwise, and so they just reacted.
We were talking about the gravity of world events. September 5 talks about this in such detail, what was happening there in Munich. Did you learn anything about, just from being from a journalistic standpoint, maybe even just in real time, what it's like having to deal with something that magnitude?
Well, just by talking to the guys involved, I mean, they don't think about the fact they're involved in something of that magnitude because it's like game day. Yeah. You know, they're just in it. They just went 22 straight hours of just doing it and doing it and doing it. There's no, you know, they pointed a live camera at a balcony and 700 million people watched that image. It's a balcony, right? But it is the potential for violence that is really keeping them there. For some of them, their hearts are pounding because they're hoping for the survival of the people that are in there. And I think that's a good many people. But we have to acknowledge this other part of humanity that's a kind of schadenfreude, where we're lusting for some violence. It exists. It's worth knowing that it exists.
Does it make more sense to have a talking head from news take over from halfway across the world? Our job is to tell the stories of these individuals whose lives are at stake 100 yards away.
I want to go back to A Different Man. You were touching on it a little bit earlier, just kind of self-reflection. And your character there, he has an opportunity, Edward, to see himself different later after the transition, if you will. I don't want to give the whole film away, but what did you learn about maybe just the human element of how we view ourselves versus how others view ourselves? And then follow that with actually having a chance to work, I want to make sure I get his name, Adam Pearson, who I won't say it's based around him, but who has some of these same physical challenges is in the film.
Yeah, Adam Pearson, who's a great actor from Under the Skin, and he's got neurofibromatosis, which are these tumors that develop around 3 or 4 years old. And the biggest gift I was able to receive working on that movie was his mother coming up to me and saying afterwards, I've always wished for someone to walk in his shoes, and you were able to do that. I was lucky. We had a great prosthetics artist, Mike Marina, who made these prosthetics, and I was able to walk literally around the city in that, and no one recognized me. And it was a very powerless, experience, and certainly, I interacted with certain people. I went to my coffee shop that I usually, I go to in New York, and they didn't know it was me. And obviously, for acting purposes, there's a degree of experience there that comes from but it was a terrifying experience.
It's you have very oily skin. I have a good cream for that. Okay.
I'd love to try it.
Yeah?
Sure.
On a more relatable basis, it really is about lying to yourself. And the degree you can, once the lie happens, you have to what you have to keep doing to maintain the lie and suppress the truth. And
they're so hard to undo.
Yeah, and how far we can go, to not face that painful moment with ourselves, the shame or whatever, and that's what the character endures. By the time it's too late, his life's been taken away from him, so.
Yeah, there's a lot of self-reflection I think anybody will have when they actually watch this film. And you bring up so much there, just trying to hide things, trying to not be who you are, and ultimately at the end, you just realize I should just simply be me, and that we're all better off when we are our authentic selves. I could be remiss if we don't talk about the Succession wing over here that we have going on.
I loved working with Jeremy, and I wish we did. That's right. I worked with your brother on another time, but I wish we did get to work.
You did work with my brother?
Yeah, on another movie.
Okay. I don't know. I'll look it up.
Yeah.
Or Google.
Yeah. He's lovely.
Okay.
Anyhow. I felt really grateful because the writing is so fantastic, and it's such great television. I remember thinking, why can't, since I wasn't finding film work that was really speaking to me, why can't I find something of this kind of significance for an actor to play with in New York? I said, wow, this would be amazing, just to get to immerse myself in something like that. And then when I signed on to do Winning Time, they kind of threw me a bone and offered me this bit with you guys.
That wasn't a call you made, that came to you?
It came to me.
Oh, cool.
They said, by the way, we have this character that's come up that we think you'd be right for. Would you like to do it? And I said, yeah, of course I'd like to do it. And then they kind of even embellished it a bit, and I just loved, but it's so powerful what you guys do.
Was it weird? Because I would think, coming in season 3, because yes, great writing, we know the fantastic writing, but we also by that point had a thing that we were doing. Yes.
Oh, I know. I just said that to Jeremy earlier. I was saying,
must have been intimidating to
Well, I was saying it's much harder to come and do your thing. I always feel for the day player or somebody who comes in for a big cameo, and you're all doing your work, and he and Brian have their whole routines, and your rapport with the writers and the But I find it exhilarating.
Yes.
I just know that I don't like to drown, so I start swimming.
By the way, there's a line that my character has in season 2 where they're given an assignment. He's at management training, and the guy, some assignment. And he was like, oh, and I'm like, what? I wasn't prepared for this. Nobody told me, and I'm freaking out. And the other character's like, it's fine. They said it's just a little assignment. He's like, no, 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 this is sink or swim. And as I'm saying it in the scene, I'm like, oh, that's the whole show.
Yeah.
That to me, I felt that, I don't know if you did, but I felt that kind of pressure like when we did a table read. I felt that kind of pressure when like another actor came in, was sort of like, oh, by the way, we changed your whole character. They do this now. Here's your new lines, and we shoot in 5 minutes. It was like, the whole thing was like sink or swim.
Yeah.
And but I watched, you said swim. You actually said it yourself. Like I watched a lot of actors just step up when their back's against the wall and really show it. I mean, when you have great writers, when you got a really great team around you and a thing is sort of moving, as long as you sort of like give yourself over to the it's sort of, I don't know.
It's the rearview mirror. Like it feels like way rearview mirror because it's been a while now. But it also was a you know, like a central life experience for 7 years, and you know, just getting to work on
7 years, yeah.
incredible material with incredible actors. You're just growing all the time. But I guess, you know, in the context of this today, I guess I feel like, in a way, that show was about things that were both absurd and painful, and there were these, to me, at least for what I was, you know, there's a moment at the end of the last season when were we in Barbados?
Yes.
Where he has a memory about being in the Candy Kitchen, this restaurant in Bridgehampton, when he was 9 years old or something, and being told this is going to happen by his father. And like these moments in childhood that are formative, that are humiliations, which I think, I'm thinking about Roy Cohn because that's what we're here to talk about. This family that the show was exploring, like the familial trauma and the internecine war between these siblings, and the way that it was then spilled outward like fire hose toxicity to the rest of the world. And that was the genius of what Jesse and the other writers were exploring, was this one nuclear family that had the capacity to have ripple effects on our world. And so there is a line that connects, you know, Gabe Sherman, who wrote The Apprentice, wrote a book about Roger Ailes called The Loudest Voice in the Room, which is basically our show, ATN, Fox. You know, it's all connected, and it's all in a way about the same cancerous thing.
A Different Man, very much similar to The Apprentice, is a movie about identity and self-truth. And it's a film about what happens when you abandon yourself. The movie sure could be seen as a fable in some ways. It's a tragedy, it's also a comedy. It's also a paranoid thriller.
All right, we have come to the conclusion, so I have to add, we'll end it on a kind of a fun little light one here. So you all have done, again, amazing pieces, amazing things you've done throughout your careers, but as I've seen, you all take the time to appreciate other people's work. So, 18-hour day on a shoot or something, let's say you're coming back, what's the thing that you do to kick back, unwind? It could be a thing, it could be something you're watching, a series, I don't know, maybe it's a PS5, you're playing video games. What's that thing that Adrien does, that Kieran does, Jeremy, and so on down the line to just bring it down a little bit?
Alcohol.
Okay, that's the honesty. And we're gonna get you that shot too. You've asked about it. As soon as we sat down, what's your favorite tequila?
I gotta think of something.
I gotta like, what would an artist say here? What would make me sound really cool?
What are you watching? What are you into?
Well, I actually did just watch Baby Reindeer.
Okay.
And I thought that was really cool.
Anybody else?
Thomas Vinterberg's new limited series called Families Like Ours. Binging that, which is incredible. Really incredible. It's not here yet.
It's not here.
It's Scandinavia. It was made in Denmark. And also Day of the Jackal, which is dope.
Okay.
It doesn't answer the question in terms of things I'm watching, but I've realized sort of recently when I'm really stressed and there's so much going on, I'm traveling or there's work and all that stuff, the thing that tends to calm me down is something that's not work related that's extremely stressful. I'm serious. I found this out. Like if I have, like the other day, my wife and I were supposed to take our kids to this birthday party, and she couldn't. She just found out before, so I had to, and it was really far, and it was so inconvenient. I had to like carry a car seat and all their shit. My son gets car sick, so I had to bring these like vomit bags and stuff like this, and he has these ridiculous like glasses they make to make kids not nauseous in a car. And I had to juggle all this stuff and get like an Uber and get them there, and we were late, and then the one's complaining and there's crying and all that stuff, and I was dealing with that for a couple hours. But that kind of stress made me completely release all the stuff that I find to be like the real stress. And actually I got into it, and I found that to be, in a way, really relaxing. It was almost like a spa day. I felt like totally, I'm dead serious. I felt,
I'm in awe, bro.
Oh, it really calmed me.
I can't. No, I fall apart.
And it did, because then I give him a bath, and then it's like, just let go of it, put it, and I do all that, and then I get him down, and they fall asleep. And then the achievement that you have that they slept, and you go in the other room, like,
did it. Washing dishes while listening to a book. Or I'm a beekeeper, and a lot of times when I'm tending bees, I'll have like one in, I have to listen to them also. And then I'm like doing something simple like that. It's like kind of repetitive, and people say they can't listen to audiobooks, and I always recommend like do something really boring.
Wash the dishes.
Physical.
Yeah.
You don't just sit there and listen like this. Don't like go on the internet. Do something that needs to be
clean the house.
Driving's good.
Driving's good.
Sebastian?
I don't know, man. I mean, I think if it's really crazy, I gotta go run or something. I gotta do something physical. You know, that's the only thing that will get me out of my head. But it's just funny because, you know, sometimes people, you know, they ask you like, oh, what do you do for fun? You know, where do you go for a vacation or whatever? And I'm always like, this is the vacation. Usually, it's like, depending on obviously what you're doing. But like I find, you know, I'm still remembering always like what it's like not working. and not, you know, and I have a hard time with that, of trying to keep my life, and also stay in love with this thing, you know, because it's just like everywhere, left and right, like you're getting, whether it's, you know, even if you have success, I mean, you guys have, you know, there's people here, you've talked about it today, I mean, things you've experienced at such magnitude. You get all these people in your life and opinions and things, and are you going to be able to do it again as good as before? Oh, what else are you going to give us now? Well, you've kind of done that, and you know, it's like, and you have to go back and keep the child that like fell in love with this thing alive, you know, and so sometimes for me it's like I'll just go and put on like a dog day afternoon or something. Not to be like, oh, but like I'm just like remembering what is possible always with this thing, and it kind of keeps me.
We can't do it by ourselves. I mean, acting by yourself in your house, because for me, I need the gun to my head first of all, and I need the other actor. So like even if I'm working on, let's go rehearse the scene, I'm like, yeah, but we don't have the gun to our heads, so I don't know how we're going to do it. Like,
100%.
I get that.
You know, it doesn't mean anything. It's like practicing shooting
paint,
baskets
actually.
without.
I won't paint after an 18-hour day. If I have a day off, I will paint.
Okay.
And I will paint, and I do find it's given me a sense of creative autonomy that we can't have as actors.
Music can do that too.
Music too. I make music too, but yeah, you play. Yeah, I make music, but I find that painting is super immersive. You know, music is more meditative in a way because my music is repetitive and kind of beat and loop driven. But painting is an unknown, and you don't have the gun to your head, which I cherish because it doesn't.
I think that's why I can't do it. I come from a family of artists, and I just.
Mine too, but yeah, but it's very hard to.
I need it.
I don't like that. I like to garden and smoke ribs and things like that.
Yeah, well,
that's good.
That's similar, but that's very similar.
I love not working. Am I the only one here that loves not working? I love it.
I love.
Like I don't need that thing.
7 years on the show.
Picking me out.
I just like. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, what's the next job? Just go see it.
All right, so we figured it out.
I'm gonna invite you.
We're gonna smoke some ribs while we sip tequila.
I'll paint something nice.
We're gonna also also be listening
Put
to
a gun to Peter's head.
Put a gun to Peter with the audio book in the other ear there. And then once we've eaten the ribs, we'll go for a run. And we pretty
And then we just won't work for a while. Yes. Yeah.
Because we figured this all out.
Little nausea glasses.
Gentlemen,
You gotta see
I
these
have to
things.
say, this was a blast. This was a treat for me. I appreciate your time. I'm wishing you all the best with anything else you have going moving forward. Thank you so much. And for the LA Times, this is The Envelope. I'm Kelvin Washington. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Stuck the landing.
Listen, you said I was ready. I was ready.
You've done that before. I think that is a big theme of it. The potential for the land of opportunity.
Sing Sing is a film about the power of art.
I think Donald Trump is somebody who's consistently reinvented himself. I think he's offered a different character every decade.